you so much. Thank you, Kathy, for the kind introduction. And firstly, before I get into the content, I really want to congratulate you, Manda. Temba spoke earlier about getting started. You know, when are you going to get started? And that's what you've done. And you guys have built something phenomenal here. And I'm excited to see where it goes next. Thank you all for coming today to hear us talk. And today I want to talk about the future of leadership and the future of work in a time of massive disruption. I wanted to talk about something else, I'll be honest. I wanted to talk about leadership and all these things. And Manda said, can you talk about content? And I love talking content. So I'll take you very quickly through a number of shifts that are happening. I'll be hopefully delving deeper into some of the context you painted, Prof. Sarab, and then talk a little bit about what that means for us as leaders, as aspiring leaders, and as people who want to craft successful careers in the future, in a world that is changing very quickly. So I believe it is an exciting time to be in business, and an exciting time to craft a career. There are major shifts, major disruptions taking place, and completely changing the future of business and, frankly, the future of the world as we know it today. So I want to take you through a number of these shifts. It's not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but just to give you a sense of what some of these shifts are, and then how, as professionals, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, we can make sure that it is an exciting time and not a terrifying time to be in business. So the first is that the pace of change is phenomenal. It's unprecedented. The way and the speed of change is much faster in scope, in scale, and in pace than anything we've seen before. You spoke about the fourth industrial revolution. And what defines it is that, the pace of change is evolving exponentially, much faster than what we've seen in any of the previous three industrial revolutions, which means that what is a reality today, or rather what is science fiction today, will become a reality much faster than it would have been 100 years ago. And so that says something about our ability to process, respond, and become relevant in a changing world. We have to be moving at that pace. So what are some of these shifts? Industry collision. So what does this mean? Traditionally, you'll have financial services as a sector. You'll have telecommunications as a sector. You'll have retail as a sector. You have different sectors, different industries, but what we're seeing is that they're all blending in together. And what you find is that F&B has launched a telecommunications business. Vodacom has launched a financial services business. MTN is launching a media business. Everybody is eating everybody's lunch. Right? And so it's important that one doesn't become confined or boxed in to say, well, I am a banking person. Because a banking person today is what Vodacom is hiring. Who knew? All right? The second one, platform economics. We've seen that there are businesses today that are built on platforms, and everybody talks about the usual suspects. We talk about Uber, we talk about Airbnb, but there are many other businesses that are built not on a product, but on a platform that enables market players to come together and connect customers with services without necessarily providing that service themselves. And these platform-based companies are disrupting traditional industries as we know them. And what do they bring? They bring massive scalability, and they bring dematerialization. What does that mean? It means that Airbnb can add hotel rooms or accommodation rooms, beds, at a rate of pace that a traditional hotel cannot dream of. Uber can scale much faster because they don't own a single car. So they're not held to the material requirements of a traditional taxi business. They've dematerialized. They're a platform business, which means that if you are in a business that is about to be disrupted by a platform business, you can't rely on the fact that there are barriers to entry. You can't rely on the fact that, wait a minute, as a telecoms player, my barrier to entry is that it costs 10 billion rand a year, which is what we spend, to build and maintain a telecommunications network. Because along comes somebody else called WhatsApp, and they do not own a single base station. They don't have to manage, build, or maintain a network, and yet they can come in and encroach on a material part of our business. Third one is disintermediation. Technology is allowing us to cut out the middleman, right? So I often joke to people, I say, if your job title has the word agent or broker, you have to rethink your position pretty quickly, because technology is allowing people to connect directly with service providers. So you don't, how many of us have used a travel agency in the past 5 years? It's a very lonely hand. Right? Because you can directly access some of these things. Complex financial products are now being sold directly online, enabling people to invest directly in sophisticated products themselves. So you see that this cutting out of the middleman means that somebody who is a middleman has to quickly figure out, how do I change my business in order to remain relevant in a changing world? Then, the big terms that are associated with the fourth industrial revolution: artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, automation, robotics. What does this mean? It is the ability to process massive amounts of unstructured data and the ability of computers to learn, which means that they are able, without human intervention, to process data that is not structured, and able, therefore, to offer us opportunities to automate, opportunities to take entire processes and entire parts of organizations and automate them. And often we think that the people who are at risk, so to speak, of automation are people in the lowest skilled parts of organizations, right? We think of Tesco, Waitrose in the UK, who are starting to completely remove the role of a cashier. And people do self-checkout. You take your stuff, you scan it yourself, there's a scanner and so on, you pay, you leave, right? So that process has been automated and a cashier is no longer needed, right? And you see what Amazon is doing with their concept stores, where you don't even need to go and pay. You just pick up your stuff, put it in a basket, walk out, and the money will be debited from your credit card. But actually, there are experiments in place to replace the role of judges in criminal justice system. And actually, in one experiment in the US, the artificial intelligence was found to be more accurate and more balanced and fair in delivering judgments than a human judge would. We're talking about automating some of the roles that are played by engineers. We're talking about automating some of the functions that are done by accountants. And so it calls for us as people who aspire to be educated to continuously learn, so that you are continuously relevant in a world where basic repetitive tasks are going to be done by these intelligent systems. The blockchain. Distributed ledger technology is often associated with Bitcoin and other currencies that are online. But actually, there are so many applications for the blockchain that are presenting use cases across industries. To give you two simple examples, Excel Coin is a global refugee crisis initiative that uses blockchain technology to allow people to fund refugee projects wherever they happen in the world, right? You have the Pharma Trust that is using blockchain technology to deal with the global counterfeit medical problem. So there's a big problem with people who sell counterfeit medication. And you can imagine how dangerous that is. And these guys are using blockchain technology to try and address that problem. The last one, I hope this plays, this video plays, but there's a question that is undeniable, and Professor Pakani spoke about it earlier, about the fact that your very constituents, your very customers are changing. And people talk about millennials, and I always laugh and say, you know, I'm a millennial, and I'm a leader in business, and people struggle sometimes to connect those two. And I say there should be a course about how to be led by a millennial, because today a lot of people focus on how to lead millennials. So I've told my team to go and find out how to be led by a millennial. But our customers are changing, right? Let me try this. I don't have sound. You don't need the sound, actually. So our customers are changing, and if we're not keeping up with those customers and what they expect, what they want, we're going to find ourselves as business leaders developing products and solutions that are actually completely irrelevant. And the importance of listening to young customers. Kathy, how much time do I have? Are you killing me? What does that mean? I'm going to go quickly here. One, you've got to figure out what business you're in and tell the story. Because the business that you thought you were in might be quite different from the business you're actually in. And if you're not able to articulate that, you're not going to be able to continue to be relevant. Two, organizational models and operating models are changing every day. And if companies can't keep up and change and be agile, they're going to fall behind. It's a reality. Three, deep understanding of our customers. I spoke about it. Four, you have to build partnerships. You spoke today and you invited, I assume you were talking to me or someone like me, about a partnership around how do we democratize content, right? And you said who from the mobile operators is willing to listen. And here I am saying, let's talk about building a partnership. Because if you don't build partnerships, nobody survives alone. Nobody is self-made. And finally, you've got to invest in people. And as a first step, as a person, you've got to invest in yourself. If you are not investing in yourself, learning, growing, remaining relevant, remaining at the forefront of whatever your chosen area is, you're going to fall behind, and we have to take responsibility for our own development. Can't leave it up to HR to do it for you. You can't leave it up to the university to do it for you. We've got to take responsibility for ourselves. Thank you.